Become an expert in SBA first. How about that?
Right.
Yeah.
Understand the SOP first.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and then you can start to take it to the next level if you would like.
I remember driving through town and Freaknik was there, and then like traffic would be stopped, and
Oh yeah,
would be on
75 was
cars,
shut down.
and you just see
Girls
Crazy
just shaking.
wild
shaking
stuff.
on the
This
like
was before video.
like on
traffic.
275.
Yeah.
it would
Yeah.
be gridlock, and it would just anything you think of.
Right.
Was
That's
going
how
on.
it was.
You
And I was like a
you
little
can hit
kid
record
scratching
because I'm
at
gonna
the
start.
And this was definitely
Oh,
before.
the
And that made you the man you are
So-
today.
Sorry.
Well, I
No one
never.
was
By the
recording
time I
anything.
grew up, they stopped doing Freaknik.
Yeah, it's been done.
What's that place
Yeah.
you guys eat all the time? Ocean Prime.
Do what now?
Ocean Prime.
I gotta drop it. I gotta drop it.
Just say live from Ocean.
So now that we're all together, who's going to Ocean Prime while they're here?
Well, you and I are tomorrow at 8 o'clock.
Can I be
There you
very
go.
real?
They don't forget about that
Yeah,
carrot cake.
for sure.
You know what I'm loving? I'm loving all this interracial love.
That's it.
This is a beautiful thing.
think it's
Al,
time
you
to
need to
come
get on the
clean,
bandwagon, okay?
We're here.
Yeah, I'm the odd man
We're
out.
getting married
You are
tomorrow.
on that now, dude.
Yeah, man.
Yo.
Yeah, Sterling and I, what we share in common is we're both ginger adjacent.
Yeah, right.
You know,
Yeah.
That's a good thing, man.
It's a buzzer on that. Oh my God.
Yeah, where is that buzzer?
Hey everyone, welcome back to the BDO Show in Tampa. This is a podcast for passionate BDOs wanting to level up their game with advice and stories from battle-tested BDOs. I'm your co-host, Emily Detour. I'm here with my fellow co-hosts, Chris Hackney, Sterling Birdsong, Ryan Kroge, and Alan Peterson. At the beginning of each episode, I'm always going to remind everybody to like, subscribe, and share, and go ahead and send over topics to the BDOshow@gmail.com. Since episode 1, we have been talking about education, educating yourself on your shop, your deal, and your vendor relationships. We literally just talked about this on episode 11, that choosing the right partners to work with is a critical part of your success as a BDO. And since you know we don't gatekeep around here, let's talk about a fan favorite. The guys have had nothing but good things to say about peak business valuation. I also decided to do my own investigation, and what I learned was that the last year alone, Peak did 1,100 SBA business valuations and turned them around in just 5 business days. Most importantly, they're easy to work with. The Peak team is always happy to jump on a call to discuss evaluation. They not only explain how they arrived at the concluded value, but are also open to receiving any new information that potentially changes the concluded value. The staff is knowledgeable, fast, professional, and the communication is top-notch. If you want to be the best, you have to work with the best. It's as simple as that. Reach out to Ryan at peakbusinessvaluation.com or call him at 435-359-2684. Let Peak Business Valuation help you build an SBA lending team that thrives. So today we are going to get into the topic of industry specialist or generalist. And I'll hand this right off to Ryan.
Industry specialist or generalist. Honestly, it could work either way. Personally, I like to call myself a generalist, but I do have very industry specific specialties that any and all brokers within the Midwest kind of bring me: gas station, liquor stores, and grocery stores. So I don't know. Well, I do know why. In Michigan, the majority of banks and all of the SBA lenders in Michigan have kicked out what they call MSBs, money service businesses. So if you have a Western Union, if you cash checks, those financial institutions do not want your deposits. They do not want your business, and they've kicked you out. And this was about 10 years ago. So I've been working for financial institutions that are okay with it. I mean, most of us don't take deposits. So I did all the business and all the 7A lending within the Midwest for these MSBs. So I, by default, became kind of a specific industry leader in liquor stores, gas stations, and grocery stores, any type of business that has an MSB. Although I still do a lot of manufacturing, do a lot of trucking, some e-commerce here, some there. So I try to call myself a generalist, but it has just kind of morphed into more of an industry specific. So I don't think one or the other is a bad thing. I think that if you are going to be known as the expert of something, if you're going to be the expert of an industry, you need to know that industry. You need to know that industry well if you're going to have a reputation of being someone who closes a lot of liquor stores or a lot of gas stations like I do. I try to learn what normal profit margins are, try to know what normal employment stacks are for those businesses, how they get their merchandise, how they sell it. I try to learn all the ins and outs of C stores and liquor stores as much as I possibly can, because by default now I've become the leading expert in Michigan and most of the Midwest. So
So you said you're a generalist, but it sounds like you're a specialist.
I know that's what I'm saying. It's just like I'm being sucked into
Special
being a specialist.
generalist?
I'm a special generalist.
Yes.
I like that phrasing too. But I don't want to be, because I've had people call me up. It's like, would you do a restaurant deal? I'm like, absolutely, I'll do a restaurant deal. Oh, okay. I thought you only did gas stations and liquor stores. Well, no, I pretty much know a lot of different industries. I've 25 years of doing this. I have a lot of knowledge, or could get the knowledge if I don't know it. But I've become the leading expert in liquor stores, gas stations, all things that deal with alcohol.
And you sort of fell into that because of your region where you
Because
are.
of my region, because of what the financial institutions that did SBA lending, because let's face it, if you're buying a liquor store, gas station, or any special purpose property that has goodwill, SBA is essentially the only option for you. There's not a bank that I know of that has ever done one conventionally. So if you're going to be doing SBA loans on any type of special purpose property, liquor store, gas station, you're probably going to be taking their deposits if you're in the Midwest, or you're going to be requiring them. Well, most of these financial institutions no longer want deposits for MSB, money service business. So they kicked them all out. And it all happened like about 10 years ago, and I was just there to catch them.
So would you say you would be comfortable taking a gas station, say in Iowa, where Ryan Collins lives?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
I'll do gas stations in Iowa.
Shout out to Ryan Collins.
Shout out to Ryan
Yeah,
Collins.
shout out to Ryan
Number
Collins.
50.
Number 50.
Number-
in your heart.
number 50.
Number one in your heart.
Number 50 in your
on the field.
playbook. Yeah.
Being a specialist, there's value in that. I did it for a while in the veterinary space. What I found internally with your shop, you have credibility because they trust your expertise in that field, right? When there's a liquor store deal, I'm sure that Ryan presents
without
maybe
a
a little bit
doubt.
of margin. They're like,
We make jokes about it
Ryan absolutely
internally.
knows a liquor store. Who am I to question him on the profit margin on this liquor store deal, right?
No,
It's
really.
right.
That is.
And they do. Al says that they joke about it internally, but anytime on a pipeline call, something with the liquor store pops up, they're asking me directly, well, how long does it usually take to get the liquor license? What's the process? Do these margins look good? And I've had other BDOs say, hey, I just got this liquor store in Indiana. Do you know anything about it? Or can I just send you my spreads and let me know if there's potential here?
A deal that I got actually that didn't end up getting done because the buyer and the seller it's relevant, but it was interesting because when I was pitching it to our chief credit officer, it was a drug and alcohol rehab center, and I explained to him that I think that because of all the liquor stores in Detroit this bank has financed, we technically should be doing the rehab piece too.
Based on the average.
And he's like, if it's in Detroit, then we'd directly be helping the same people that were poisoning on all those Krogi deals. And I'm like, no, it's
Probably
just,
get CRA credit for that too.
yeah. It was in the Southwest or whatever. Anyway,
Industry shyster is what we want
but
to
it
call
is
you
funny
guys.
though, because really, I mean, you do a lot of them, man.
I do.
Yeah, I think the only thing that you have to be careful about if you're going to essentially go into one niche is that niche doesn't dry up.
Yeah,
because I have seen that happen to a couple of different verticals.
Wasn't that long
Even though,
ago?
Like the last 5 years ago, and we're talking about
right?
self-storage as being a
Veterinary
big
happened
one.
to me.
And same thing with veterinary, right?
Corporate roll-ups,
Yeah.
and
The
they
good
didn't really
thing
get
about liquor
financed
stores,
independently.
when the economy's banging, people want to celebrate. When the economy's bad, people want to drown their sorrows.
Yeah,
So
liquor stores aren't going anywhere.
They're
That's
going
for sure.
nowhere, man.
You know, but things happen. Like for example, in the veterinary space, all of a sudden, private equity came in. They started gobbling up all the mom and pop
Yeah,
veterinary
and the
clinics.
multiples became too
Right.
high where it didn't make sense. But also another benefit when you become an expert, you learn the business. I was very close to being a partner and buying a veterinary practice, right? So you get that expertise. Like I know there's some banks out there that have the verticals or lenders, and a lot of their lenders that specialize in the verticals, they end up buying businesses in that vertical and they grow their expertise. But also the valuable thing, you can connect with your borrowers more if you're a specialist, right? So when I was in the veterinary space and I can speak their language, I would say, oh, you have 3 doctors, that should be $700,000 per doctor. Your revenue is actually $3 million. How'd you get that extra $900,000 of revenue? Oh, we have you're doing these extra procedures over here. Okay, that makes sense. Or I knew like revenue per square foot. If it's over 350, it's time for you to expand your building. You've outgrown that facility. So when I would say things like that, like, wow, this guy knows my industry and he knows SBA finance. I'm definitely working with him.
Right.
So it's an added level of expertise on top of your knowledge base as an SBA lender. You know a little bit, not a little bit, maybe a lot in Ryan's case, about their industry and what they do on a day in, day out basis. So when it comes between another lender and Ryan, I'm going with Ryan all day because Ryan knows SBA financing and he knows my business. So I'm going to trust him more than Johnny Lender, who's kind of a generalist.
It's always helpful too when you can come with the client and you can say, on the last plumbing deal that I closed last month,
heck yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This was important to us. You know, they weren't dependent upon new construction, right? I noticed on this business there's significant opportunity to increase residential maintenance, right? There's no, you know, whatever. And when you can actually kind of get into that, that's really cool. For me personally, I'm at this point more of like a use of proceeds specialist, right? Like I'm doing just business acquisitions primarily and partner buyouts. But when I get a request sometimes for a deal that makes sense for a commercial real estate purchase through expansion or something like that, I'm still going to take that paper. And I know that's different. There's varying opinions on that. Some people are like, you should really draw a hard line and only, you know, do one thing if you're ever going to be the best at it. But I think that I've done enough straightforward commercial real estate transactions that you can dabble in that without getting too lost in the weeds. You know what I mean? It doesn't.
That's a different type of niche. That's more of a deal type niche than an industry niche.
Totally.
Which I like more.
Yeah,
personally.
that's
I think
what
that
I'm
tying
about.
yourself to any individual industry
Too risky.
is very risky because things are cyclical. For example, self-storage, right? Me and you used to go to self-storage conferences
all the time
together, right? And it's like now there's no self-storage deal that's going to pencil at these interest rates, right?
No.
It's like, you know, I'm coming in and, you know, I'm Mr. Prime plus 3%. You know, you're not going to get
5
you
if
know,
you could,
buzzer
folks.
on
5 if
if
you
I
could.
could.
You shouldn't have the
you
buzzer
know?
this episode. Get the buzzer for
He's
him.
got the buzzer. He's got to buzz us out.
But you know what, fellas? This is what differentiates regular BDOs from high producing and really good BDOs, because you can be industry specific BDO in self-storage or veterinary practices or whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, when that industry starts to implode or starts to go in a different direction, you can easily pick up either another industry or pick up and switch gears and go in a different direction to keep your pipeline moving, to keep the deal flow moving.
Right.
The leaders do that.
That's
You know,
why I've
the
always
market,
been-
those are market makers. I talked about market takers a couple episodes ago. Those are market makers. They're the ones that will make a market within a niche to benefit themselves and to benefit the bank and the buyers.
Right.
That's why I've always been hesitant about ever joining a shop where it's like they want you to basically burn your boat in terms of, hey, you have to be just in this
vertical.
industry,
Right.
just in this vertical. If another deal comes in and it's in another industry, you got to refer it to this guy over here
Right.
because
Right.
he's the subject matter expert in this industry. And so over time, you become almost too specialized where
Right.
if something does happen in your industry or you decide to go somewhere else and all of a sudden you have to become a generalist, it's like, man, I don't really have all that many referral sources that are going to send me these different types of loans, right? But to your point earlier that you made about, hey, I'm the BizAc guy.
Yeah.
Well, you can do a BizAc in any industry.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So
Right.
it's just like if I just specialize in this certain type of deal.
That again, that's a certain type of transaction.
And-
Yes.
It's business
Yeah.
acquisitions. That's not really industry specific. That's not really even a niche. That's just a transaction type that you're good at.
Yeah.
Still
Exactly.
specializing, and I think it's safer than an industry.
I think it's
because
much safer.
You
Yeah.
want people to think of you when they have, I have this type of transaction, right? That's a broader.
Well, I've had to share with
business
some of my partners that I used to do other deals with, and you know, I let them know, like, listen, I'm always here to help you, guide you, but really, I'm interested in business acquisitions and partner buyouts from $1 to $5 million. You know, that's really the deals that I do. That's
PYT, protect your time.
exactly right. So when I've got like a franchise startup, you know, for $500,000, like that's
Cat
not
Cafe.
it's not me. Well, shout out to Cat Cafes. Did you guys know? Let's take a quick break. Did you know that 3 out of every 5 households took in a pet during COVID to battle the loneliness, and now they were able to because they're working from home? That's why I'm extremely bullish on Cat Cafes and extremely bullish on pet hotels.
No kidding.
That's a pitch that
That's
he
a
made in a
hotels.
committee.
I actually said
Get
that
outta
line
here.
on a
He
veterinary
gave some
deal,
fake
like
statistic, some nonsense statistic
No, it was actually true, but it had no.
in a
the
credit
information-
committee. This guy casually goes, well, you know, and he's presenting, and this guy presents great, you know, and he's like, da 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 da. And by the way, I mean, let's not forget that
a
statistic
true
shows
statistic, but it
7
was-
out of 10 homes brought in a pet, and now they're going back to the office. We got to put these pets in the
But
pet
the point
hotel.
is, like, I was a specialist at the time.
But he was
it was a true
that was
fact.
veterinary
But even if
adjacent.
it wasn't
So
a
you
true fact.
specialized in cat cafes?
No, in veterinary.
No, me and him-
There's only one person who's sitting here who's in a cat cafe, and that's me.
Yeah,
Okay.
I got one.
You did one too.
I got one
Hey,
too.
look, paid as agreed.
There you go.
Mine.
Hey,
Paid as
All that
agreed.
matters, man. All that matters is paid as agreed.
But to
Yeah.
that point, I
Bottom
was such
line.
a specialist.
Anything with an
Even-
animal,
even-
Chris must know it.
Even if
Not
the
that
fact
safari,
wasn't
though.
true, right. they believed it and bought into it. Now it was a real statistic, but they were so focused on my expertise on that deal, they weren't really worried about the
Yeah.
credit was okay. Right? It
Yeah.
wasn't a marginal
Right.
deal, but they're like, wow, this guy's coming with additional facts on this opportunity. And it was a conversation about, post-pandemic and pet ownership afterward. It wasn't really even about the deal. Like, oh, approved. Great.
Yeah.
Like, well, that was easy.
You guys mentioned COVID. Let's talk about being industry specific during COVID. Like, say you're like, oh, I do gyms, I do trampoline parks. Like, all that closed down. Like,
Not liquor stores. They were considered an essential business.
Yeah.
in
so
New York,
my business exploded.
in New
it was
York, they
unbelievable.
said they were going to shut liquor stores down, and in with 1 hour, I had a trunk full of wine because I was like, I'm not running out. Because in New York, I was like, New York was the tightest like of them all. Like, of all.
Michigan was pretty
Now-
tight.
Now you know for dinner on Saturday, wine.
A little bit of
Why?
A little bit,
Oh no, I'm getting a
Oh, sorry,
gimlet.
set up.
But
Santa Margarita.
You can have
are there any
Both of them.
industries or use of loan proceeds requests that you guys won't do?
Yeah, there are industries that we won't touch. We really don't do e-commerce.
Right.
We're not really doing restaurants or hotels at the moment either. We have done those historically, but there are certain industries that it's really typically bank specific. Sometimes banks have certain metrics that they have to stay under in terms of a concentration in a certain asset class. And so, for example, with us, we have a decent amount of hotels on the books. We have a decent amount of restaurants on the books. And so, the OCC can come into your shop and say, hey, that bucket for the hotels is getting a little too full. Maybe you guys need to pump the brakes for a while. So that does happen to banks as well. And then sometimes it's just credit quality. There are certain industries, like, for example, the e-commerce, which I touched on, gyms as well, that we don't necessarily love because historically those deals have just performed poorly in our portfolio.
And it's good to get out in front of that with your referral sources. When you find out that, hey, we're taking a pause on hospitality hotel lending, call up the brokers that send you those types of deals and just say, hey, instead of waiting until they send you a deal, have a conversation. Hey, we're not doing hospitality right now. Here's why.
Right.
Here's what we're focused on. Right.
That's
so
right.
Now when they get the next hospitality, they're not going to send it to you, but they know this deal actually fits your. But instead of just
You'll bang 100
another way
insurance
that you-
agencies if you or whatever it
it's
might be.
another way
or
to have
whatever.
a conversation
Right.
with your referral partner, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you? So when you guys get those types of requests, what do you do with them?
Send them to whoever's doing
Yeah,
it.
send them to whoever's
And you
doing
know-
it.
So,
Yeah,
A.
absolutely.
Peterson at firstib.com. But they have, but
No,
when
Someone's
I,
lacking on the button.
Sorry.
I have a it's a $5 million partner buyout. I'm going to flip to Alan after this episode that I got from a guy I used to throw parties with back in the day. I think you met.
Oh, no,
Will.
we were in the elevator together. We were talking about Outcast, I think.
Absolutely,
In Las
yeah,
Vegas.
good memory.
And- yeah.
Outcast.
Yeah, I love
So-
Outcast.
I love
So
Outcast
he's
too.
got
Yeah.
a restaurant deal
Solid.
that
Yeah.
honestly we should have done it 2 years ago, but they're just slow moving, and fortunately we're not doing restaurants at this time. So I'm
Wow.
like, hey,
Well, that's
Thanks.
Flip
We're
them
not
our
doing
way,
it, and
man.
I'm
We
flipping it.
love restaurants.
that's exactly
Right,
right. We
So, yeah,
like
that happens.
when I'm not the best at startups, like a true startup, even a franchise startup, there's some shops out there, there's some lenders out there that are phenomenal at that. They know that, they understand it, they fly through an FTD, they make a decision. That hasn't been really my personal experience. Not that I will not do an acquisition of a franchise, but a true startup, generally it's just not something that I do, So I try to stay away from those and put them in the direction of somebody that can help. That way I still, show you some value. Hey, I
Right.
can't, but so and so might be able to.
Absolutely.
It's so easy to do that.
Yeah.
And then you stay friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And then what you want to do too, if you're a BDO thinking about joining another shop, you want to ask what industries are you not lending to right now, obviously, but
Yeah.
also, hey, what industries do you think in the future, do you have concentration issues with? Are you struggling with right now, but maybe you're not on pause? Because if you do a lot of restaurants, for example, and you join our bank and you're like, well, gosh, we're not doing restaurants right now.
Can this
Sorry.
also, can
Yeah.
this also be a question that you may need to ask? Is about can we lend in these states, or like which states do not? Is this a thing with
No,
lenders?
that is a thing because I've run into several different shops that won't lend in certain states.
Right.
Which I guess if you're a regional bank, Some banks only want to lend in the states where they have a footprint,
Right.
even SBA.
So that would be a good question for a BDO to ask a lender.
Yeah, and as a lender, just to be clear, that's not a niche you want. You don't want the,
Correct.
I just lend in Florida, Alabama, New York, New Jersey,
Right.
and Pennsylvania, and that's it.
Right.
No,
And
you
the rest
want
of
to
these
be open
states
to the
are
whole
just,
country.
yeah, you want to be able to touch all 50 states.
You want to be
and the
you want to be a
territories.
national preferred lender,
Yep.
right?
Yes.
Yep.
In my opinion.
Because any paper that comes across your desk, you want to be able to monetize.
No,
Don't leave any money on the table.
Don't lose any
and
money on
representing the number 2 preferred lender for banks that average $1 million per transaction, as that's where we work, right?
Correct. Yep.
There's
Don't even give it to him. Don't even do it.
I'm going to give it to him.
You're lacking on that button.
I better
What happens when you guys get a deal that comes across your desk and you're like, all right, it's not my niche, but this looks so interesting, but I know nothing about
I'll
it.
find out about it.
I'll find out
Yeah.
about
I'll
it.
find
Learn.
it.
You're
That's
like,
a good-
hey,
a good
Chris,
deal-
so, what
I
do you
mean,
think
a good
about
deal's a
cats
good
and
deal.
dogs?
We are
At the end of the day,
we are the
money's
internet.
money.
We do have a wealth of knowledge at our
They
fingertips.
have Wi-Fi there as well.
Yeah, we got Wi-Fi at the internet. We got everything.
I
at the
bleed
internet.
ones and zeros.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's
are
like,
the matrix.
does the business
We are the
make money?
matrix.
Right.
Like, do they still work in dollars and cents? Because if they're working in dollars and cents, I'm sure I can figure it out. Do they have a
Right.
tax return?
Yeah.
Does it still start with the revenue at the top and the net at the bottom?
Yeah.
That's like-
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can add and subtract.
Yeah.
I can divide, you know?
Yeah,
What
and
you could do if you're not familiar with that industry, you can, you're at a bank that's probably financed that industry before.
Right.
Go to your credit officer. Have we ever financed an insurance agency before?
That's a
yeah,
great
this
point.
one.
Oh, you
Education.
know-
we
you
bring
look-
this
And that's
back
what I
every
should have done with that
episode.
zoo.
Have we ever financed a safari before? No, we haven't.
and no, we
That's what
will
I
not
should've
be
done.
getting
But
into
seriously, you look at that. You get to your credit officer. You find the deal. Look at the memo. Look at what questions were asked by the
Well,
underwriters.
don't forget
that's in
don't
file.
forget too the opportunity to start getting the credit authority their opinion on the deal. You're inadvertently putting that deal on the radar in the beginning,
Right.
and then I can say, listen, fundamentally, I've got a deal here. This is an industry that I'll be honest with you, I haven't done a ton of these. What are some things that I should look out for
Yep.
on this industry that I'm not immediately aware of? And now you're collaborating. Oh,
Mhm.
glad you asked, Alan. Yes, it's great that they do, X, Y, Z, but you got to be careful of a certain vendor concentration, maybe, or it's interesting, but there's concentration risk based on whatever. So then you could get ahead of that with the borrower, and you're already planting the seed. You iron through it, and it makes the approval process that much easier. In
so
my
much
experience.
easier.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I actually work at my past lender I worked at. There was an underwriter, and she used to just at her other job she used to just underwrite chicken farms like all day.
Yeah.
So she knew everything there
Chicken
was
farm.
about chickens, and I'm like, that is the most random
yeah.
thing
I
ever.
have a story about chicken farms.
Of course you do.
I do. It's
course you
actually a pullet farm. You know what a pullet is?
No.
No.
A pullet is the stage of a chicken between a chick and a full-grown hen.
So like a teenager,
Yeah, it's a teenager.
teenage chicken.
So-
All right.
Just yelling at their parents all day.
There was this pullet farm in the middle of nowhere, Michigan, that grew pullets for Gordon Foods. They become chicken nuggets, frozen chicken nuggets. Dinosaur-shaped ones, all types.
It's a sad story.
It's really taking a
Y'all
turn.
all just
Hang
had
in
chicken
there.
sandwiches an hour
Chickens
ago.
are going to a cafe. They're
Correct.
getting
The
Y'all
chickens
all
are
just
going
ate
to a
chicken
cafe.
strips like an hour ago for the
Yeah.
record.
We went out
Shout
there.
out
delicious.
Canes.
More cane sauce,
Shout out to
please.
Kane.
So I actually got this from the local district SBA office because they did a disaster loan for them not that long ago, and now they needed a loan because a tornado came through. They had 6 massive barns, huge barns with all these pullets, and I guess they call them free range if you throw them in a barn with no cage, but they were just packed with these pullets, just
Ugh.
tripping all over the place. So they had 8 of them, and a tornado came through and took 2 of the barns completely out.
Oh no.
Right. So SBA stepped in, did a small disaster loan for their income, and we were stepping in to give them money to redevelop those barns for them. So when we were out there, though, so the tornado had hit maybe about 2-3 weeks prior to us going out. So I'm going out and I'm talking to them. I'm taking a tour of these pullets are ugly, man. They barely have any feathers, and they're just like this big. It's just weird. But there were people still pulling up in different farms and pickup trucks, dropping off pullets that had been hit by the tornado and been shot off into different
Oh my.
farms. All over the place. He says he still has neighbors from 1 to 2 miles away bringing pullets because they're like the only chicken pullet farm around there, bringing pullets
They knew
over.
exactly where it came from.
They knew exactly where
Now,
it
what do
came
you
from.
do though if the pullet gets lost for a significant amount of time? It comes back a chicken.
Right, it does. It comes back a chicken, and then
Yeah.
What could
That
you
is-
ever do with that?
What do you do? What do you do then?
and
Now that's
chicken,
industry expertise.
Yeah.
right there.
chickens
I'm a
only
pullet
have
guy.
about they only have about a 9-month useful life.
Man.
useful life for human consumption for whatever we're going to use them for. It's about 9 months. See, I had to get educated on this stuff when I went out there. I knew nothing about chickens, right? But anyway, when we were out there looking at the site and where they were going to build, they had like done next to no cleanup. I mean, they got rid of the debris, but they didn't get rid of all the debris. So there was, there were
bullets everywhere.
Oh, dude, all over the place.
Like,
Well, they said, well, we're just leaving them out here. There's some still out here because the coyotes will come and eat them. And it's great. It's feeding the coyotes, feeding the wildlife. I said, okay.
Do you
fine
guys
with you.
do you guys also feel like with the new BDOs coming onto the scene, maybe they're passionate about something that they grew up doing and that could help them find a niche? Like how would you tell a BDO or would you advise them, stay a generalist or find something, lender aside? Like is this something that maybe they can grow like their passions into?
You want to ask the shop first if they're interested in that industry. So like I got into veterinary because they said, hey, we want to do these veterinary loans, Chris, can you figure it out? And I did, but you don't want to specialize in like maybe e-commerce, whatever the industry may be, and they don't like doing those types of loans. So first ask, hey, are we interested in this industry? And if you're passionate about it, then that should bode well.
I don't think there's any rush to like jump into finding one immediately.
Right.
You can be a generalist for a while, and then if you start to, sometimes it's the referral sources that you meet that kind of dictate
That's
what
true.
experts you become as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I all
that
of a
does
sudden was
happen a
like, I was the ALF guy for a while at the bank just because I met the right person in the ALF space, and they started telling everybody that I'm the ALF guy,
Right.
And because I got one deal done for them,
Yeah.
right. And so it's like all of a sudden I'm starting to learn more about the ALF space, and it's starting to like become my vertical basically. And I had no plans on being in the vertical, right?
Right.
I was just being a generalist, but
It
then
found you.
I go
Yeah.
where the money is. I go where the deals are,
Absolutely.
right? So if the deals are there, I'll learn the space. I have no problem doing it.
And for those of you who are wondering, ALF is not the little hairy guy from the 80s sitcom that eats cats.
No one knows
it's
this is-
assisted living facility.
Elf?
Elf.
For those of you
never
wondering
seen
what
Alf?
ALF
I do,
is,
but
if you were born
maybe-
in 1945,
If you were born
Who's from
after
the
1980,
That's a
Alien.
Gen X
80s.
joke.
Alf was a sitcom
we're gonna get a
about.
writing question on what is Alf?
What is Alf?
I love the show. What's that?
He was a furry alien who ate cats.
I
And
remember Alf,
it was
though.
a sitcom.
And it was hilarious. I love that.
I do remember.
And I
Alf.
just want everyone to know he's the one that shows his age. It is not us. Like he is the one that does
It
it.
looks great for the record.
Yeah, for the record.
You
He
run,
does look great.
you run a marathon a month. I mean, geez, what
Been
am
on
I
my
going to
vision board for 36
I'm
years.
38 on
I still run a marathon.
Yeah. I feel like
That's what a
about
tattoo
80.
sleeve. That's what I feel like I'm missing out on.
So at the end of the
That's what you
day,
need.
at the end of the day, you guys do find value in having a niche.
Yes, there is value in having a niche. And for any new BDO going out there trying to find what niche they want to be in, I would equate it to how I raise my daughters, raise my children, and what sports do they want to play? What activities or hobbies do they want to have? Well, let's try some baseball, soccer, gymnastics, dancing, whatever they're
Never
interested
hockey
in.
though. That goes like all
No,
year.
never hockey because you're talking to someone from Hockey Town. Like everybody in my neighborhood plays hockey, travel hockey, and they are gone all the time.
It's
But
like
anyway,
40 something weeks out of the year. It's like insane.
it is. It's ridiculous. And so just try different industries, find whatever ones suit you best. But more importantly, like Chris said, what suits your bank best? Do a couple from different industries you're interested in. And if your bank's like, man, I really like those funeral home deals you were bringing in. Those are solid. Start focusing on that.
How about this? Have you guys ever brought a niche to your lender and said, hey, FYI, I know you guys aren't familiar with this, but I'm
I
going
feel
to
like that kind of happened with the self-storage with you, didn't it?
Yeah, I started doing a ton of self-storage pretty quickly, and they loved it. And it was something that was interesting. I also, let's not forget, I had a little exposure to the rent-to-own space. And because my chief credit officer really liked it. Think stores like Aaron's and
Oh, sure. Rent-A-Center.
Renaissance.
Those places.
Those are the juggernauts. There's some independent ones. But, those deals were interesting. And it was, quite frankly, my chief credit officer really liked him. I said, hey, how do you feel about these deals? He goes, I love that business. He goes, especially in, they're predicting an economic downturn, and that's where those businesses thrive. Like in different areas, there could be some great opportunity to support them to continue to grow and position themselves well. And I was like, okay, cool. Right. So, and then we started doing those, but self-storage was like that. We started getting the credit memos were pre-filled. It was copy and paste the thing, but the deals were all ultimately the same. And we were getting a lot. You and I were they were moving, but then things change, I think niches is an interesting thing, but like we keep saying, I don't, in the beginning, it's okay if you don't have an niche. And to answer what you had said, like if you're passionate about something, I grew up in the bar and restaurant business, right? So that was my family. That's that business. I literally grew up in it, right? So I'm not Joe Restaurant though. You know what I mean? But I can still identify when I know they're using Bank of the Mattress and I don't judge them for it, right? So it's an interesting thing.
I would just say you can go into a niche or a vertical, but just never lose your ability to pivot.
Yeah.
I think that's extremely important. I know in the many other facets of life, burning your boats is like a fantastic thing. You should go full force towards whatever your goal is, but never burn your boats and go directly into a niche and not leave yourself some ability to maneuver and still find some deals that are outside of that individual vertical.
Yeah, when the veterinary space dried up, the year prior I think it was like 17 or 18 million was just veterinary lending. And then the very next year, there was so many corporate acquisitions, I think it dropped to like maybe 3 or 4 million. Then the year after that, it was none, right? But my production still stayed about the same, if not it increased.
Right.
And even though there was a less of a percentage dedicated to veterinary, I just pivoted.
Right.
And I never lost stride because of the diminished or the change to the veterinary industry.
Yeah.
So you need to be taking on, to Ryan's point, like other types of deals, even if as you continue to specialize, still take on deals adjacent to that make sense for you. So if there is a change to the industry, like Sterling said, you don't lose your stride and your production doesn't go backwards.
You can be the greatest liquor store lender in the Detroit metro, but don't be afraid to hit a pollet farm when you need to. That's what I've learned from you today.
I guess at the end of the day, we always come back to education. Like if you get a deal across your desk and you're a new BDO and you're like, I got no clue what to do with this. You just start asking around. Ask the people you work with. Ask your friends. Ask your colleagues. Ask other lenders.
I've been lucky because, where I've worked, so, I did like the loan broker thing and I had my loan brokerage and my, whatever. That doesn't even count. I've been lucky with the banks that I've worked with have all legitimately had that collaborative nature to them. Like both operations, I've always had access to credit decision makers, access to managers, leaders, access to the other producers, right? And I don't know if it's that way everywhere, but if it's not that way where you are, you're at a significant disadvantage, right? Because it takes that level of collaboration for you to learn, and you need to learn if you're going to grow and develop, period, right? So ask other people, whether it's someone that you're comfortable with or even just getting 5 minutes to run a deal by somebody or something. If I had a liquor store deal, I would call you because I know you'd show me what to look out for and just make sure that this is that, because that could be a problem if, you know what I mean? And stuff I wouldn't identify. So don't be afraid to reach out to people.
Right, because you always want them to pay as agreed.
Yeah.
Pay as agreed.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're coming up with some real taglines here. We're going to have to start hashtagging. And
Merchandise.
Merchandise.
Yeah,
we need T-shirts.
More T-shirts.
Yes.
Yes.
Boy, do we need more T-shirts.
I want a T-shirt. I want to see Al wear a T-shirt that says "Ride the Base."
Yeah.
Base Riders
Base
Alliance.
Riders.
I stand on that
Base
too.
Riders, mount up.
I'm not backpedaling a little on that. I have
No pushback.
Do we have
there'll
any
be no
closing
pushback.
thoughts for our new BDOs coming into the industry that may say like, I only want to focus on restaurants, or I don't care what the lender wants? Like, what do you guys want to say to them?
I wouldn't specialize too early. I would focus on becoming an
Just
expert.
becoming a good BDO.
Getting reps in.
Thorough.
Get your reps.
Get a good
Become an
network.
expert in SBA first. How about that?
Right.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Understand the SOP first.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you can start to take it to the next level if you would like to.
And figure out what your bank likes as an industry or verticals, and you can explore that. And if you run across an industry that you're not familiar with, like I said, find out deals that have been financed at your bank and look at those credit memos and see what questions are asked. That'll help you get a leg up.
And you'll find sometimes that the niche will find you, kind of, right? Or there'll be a,
Or like you said, the
have
referral
to be
partner will be
chosen.
like,
or the referral partner.
I got 10 of these coming your way.
Yeah. So learn quick,
Yeah.
for real. So.
Well, great. Thank you, guys. I want to remind everybody to like and subscribe. Make sure you share. Alan's gonna get cut from the show. We're looking to fill a spot. But like and subscribe, share with your friends. We're on all streaming platforms available. Go ahead and submit your topics to the BDO Show at gmail.com, and we'll see you next time.